Broadway Beat. Broadway. Broadway Beat. Broadway Beat. Broadway Beat. Broadway. Listen to the Broadway Beat. Broadway makes you wanna move your feet. Everybody's tapping into everything that's happening on Broadway Beat. Broadway Beat. Broadway Beat. Broadway Beat.
Hello, I'm Richard Ridge, and welcome to Broadway Beat, where we bring you the very best of what the New York theater scene has to offer. This week, it's the Jets and the Sharks who have returned to Broadway in the new revival of the classic musical West Side Story, playing at the Palace Theater under the direction of the show's librettist, Tony Award winner Arthur Lawrence. We'll also take you to Sardi's for the opening night celebration for the new Broadway production of Noel Coward's comedy Blithe Spirit, where we'll once again chat with the cast led by the legendary Miss Angela Lansbury. We'll also stop by a rehearsal for the Broadway-bound production of Neil LaBute's new play called Reasons to be Pretty, which will open on April 2nd at the Lyceum Theater. Terry Kinney directs. But we start things off with a tribute to acclaimed actress Natasha Richardson, who passed away last week after a fatal skiing accident. She won a Tony Award for her electrifying portrayal of Sally Bowles in Roundabout Theater Company's groundbreaking revival of the musical Cabaret. She also starred on Broadway in such shows as A Streetcar Named Desire, Closer, and Anna Christie, where she met her future husband-to-be, Liam Neeson. Here's our look at the luminous Natasha Richardson.
But I do be thinking ever since the first look my eyes took at you, that it's a fool you are to be wasting yourself. A fine handsome girl on a stumpy runt of a man like that old Swede. There's too many strapping great lads in the sea would give their heart's blood for one kiss of you.
Lads like you, eh?
You take the words out of me mouth. I'm the proper lad for you if it's myself to be saying it. I wish now, me Daisy. Himself's in the cabin. It's one of your kisses I'm needing to take the tiredness of my bones. Come on, one kiss now.
Let go of me, you big fuck! Don't have your eye, my hair. Wonder why my head. I've always said that I was a robot. You mustn't knit your brow. You should have known by now. With every chord set out, me mine hair. I buy my Hoover hair. I'll even say mine hair. Starting with mine hair will go by. You can't see small mine hair. Unbelievable mine hair. So succeed and say mine hair. He will hold me fast. I'll be home at last. Not a loser anymore, like the last time and the time before. When I was preparing, I did a lot of training and vocal preparation, and I'd go through days when I thought, oh, I can't hit those notes, I can't do it, who am I trying to kid? And then the next day something would happen, I think, oh, yes, I can do this, maybe I can. So it's gradual, you know, it's sort of, it's like a toddler learning how to walk, really.
Did you go back to the Christopher Isherwood book?
Yes, I did. I read the Christopher Isherwood book. I read the play, I'm a Camera. But what I didn't do is I didn't revisit the movie because I'd never seen the stage musical. But the movie is like my favorite movie from when I was a child, and I sang the songs for years and loved it. And I had to let that go so that I could be Sally and not have such a strong image in my head of Liza's performance. This is what we're dealing with. We arrive with our baggage, and for a while they're brilliant. They're baggage handlers. We say, where's your baggage? They deny all knowledge of it. They're in love. They have none. Then, just as you're relaxing, a great big juggernaut arrives with their baggage. Got held up. One of the greatest myths men have about women is that we overpack. They love the way we make them feel, but not us. They love dreams.
What have you got those fine feathers on for?
Oh, that's right. You left before my wire came.
You got a wire?
I received a telegram from an admirer.
Anything good?
I think so. An invitation.
What to?
A cruise to the Caribbean on a yacht.
Well, what do you know?
I've never been so surprised in my life.
I guess not.
It came like a bolt from the blue.
Who did you say it was from?
An old beau of mine.
The one that gave me the white fox pieces?
Mr. Shep Huntley. I wore his Ethiopian my last year at college.
It just lifts me up when I see so many young people standing outside the stage door who have come to see this show. And it's not just, I mean, of course, I love the older Broadway crowd, but that they're getting such a kick out of it. That's why I do theatre, is to hopefully connect with young people and make them want to make theatre and watch theatre. So, yeah.
La dame au camélia, vous êtes amant. Do you understand French?
No, I don't understand French.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? Vous ne comprenez pas? Oh, quel dommage.
Noel Coward's classic comedy Blithe Spirit, which is directed by the esteemed Michael Blakemore, is back on Broadway playing at the Schubert Theatre with a terrific cast led by Rupert Everett, Christine Eversole, Jane Atkinson, and the legendary Miss Angela Lansbury. We caught up with all of them on opening night at Sardi's.
Take the plunge, out with it. You've been hearing strange noises. Doors creaking, doors slamming, strange moanings in the passages. Is that it?
No, I'm afraid it isn't. It's worse than that.
Oh.
I know it sounds idiotic, but the other night, during that séance, something happened.
I knew it.
You know that my husband was married before?
Yes, I had heard it mentioned.
His first wife, Elvira, died, comparatively young.
Where?
Here, in this house, in this very room.
I'm beginning to see the daylight.
Yes. Well, she was convalescing after pneumonia, and one evening she began to laugh helplessly at a BBC musical program and died of a heart attack.
Living in 8 times
well, it's rather like stepping back in time for me because, of course, when I was a kid, you know, Coward was the man, and now suddenly he is again. And I'm thoroughly aware of his wonderful humor and wit, and it's marvelous to get to perform it for, you know, a 209 audience. I'm getting a big kick out of it. I really am.
And talk about the wonderful role and this great cast you get to play with.
Yeah, well, this is a role that many actresses of my years always want to play, Madame Arcati, you know. And I never thought I would. I'd never have the chance. But so when this came up, I thought, why not? Although I had not planned to come back to Broadway so soon. So as it turned out, it was the thing to do.
It's an old-fashioned play, you know. It's built in a way that plays aren't done anymore. And you have to find the right style to do it in. And fortunately, I've got a group of actors who are very sympathetic to that style. It needs a very quick mind and a very quick and precise delivery of text. And it needs patience on the part of both the audience and the actors until the plot is laid in and the farce can work. But fortunately, with this cast, that hasn't proved a problem.
Oh, it's such a joy. I mean, when you go out there and you feel those waves of hostility towards Angela Lansbury, you think, oh. I mean, it is extraordinary, actually. You know, I'm joking, of course. I mean, the love is sort of tangible. It's really remarkable. And it's such a privilege to be on the stage with her, and such fun. She's such a lady.
You were talking about this scarf. Tell me the history of this scarf.
Now, this scarf was given to me by Lady Harris, who said that Noel Coward had given it to her. And so I feel I ought to wear it now, don't you think?
Well, how do you account for it, then?
I can't account for it. That's what's so awful.
Did you feel quite well yesterday, during the day, I mean?
Of course I did.
What did you have for lunch?
Well, you ought to know. You had it with me.
Well, let's see now. We had the lemon sole and that cheesy thing.
Why should having a cheesy thing at lunch make me see my deceased wife after dinner?
Well, you never know. It was rather rich.
Well, why didn't you see your dead husband, then? You had just as much of it as I did.
Well, he's a great playwright. I love doing his work. It's very funny, and I think people should enjoy it.
And talk about this role. What a great role it must be to play. Talk a little bit about Charles.
I don't know how to be honest, but it is a fabulous role. Blah, blah, blah.
The fun role I get to play is Dr. Bradman's wife, essentially, Violet Bradman. And amongst all of the very sophisticated and witty people, Violet is probably a bit of the hee-haw. I mean, whatever the Kent County version of a simple girl, maybe I was a farm girl, I'm thinking, in Kent, and I married this, erudite man who became a doctor, and I'm in this very sophisticated company, and I'm a little over my head, but it's a seance, and the crazy Madame Arcati is so fascinating, and I sort of tend to believe in all that stuff where the others are skeptical.
Promise, you'll do what I ask.
That depends on what it is.
Ruth, do you see that bowl of flowers on the piano?
Yes, dear, I did it myself this morning.
Very untidily, if I may say so.
You may not.
Very well, I never will again, I promise.
Elvira will now take that bowl of flowers to the mantelpiece and back again.
I don't see why I should. You've been nothing but insufferable to me ever since I materialized.
Please.
All right. I'll do it just this once.
Now watch carefully, Ruth.
Yes, my dear.
Go on, Elvira, to the mantelpiece and back again.
Well, she's very mischievous and childlike and fun and sexy, and so I like that.
And the play itself, what attracted you to the play? No one writes plays like this anymore.
No, they don't. It's the language. It's just so alive, isn't it?
Is it a fantasy for an audience member to watch this? These are the kind of plays we read about in theater worlds, and you heard about these things, but we don't have them anymore. Is it a fantasy for you to play this kind of role with this company 8 times a week?
It is. It is. It's absolutely, it's a dream come true. It's actually surpassed any dreams I've ever had.
It's really great to look out there and see just 1,400 people that are really happy to be there. So it's been a complete joy. I'm surprised, I'm surprised they pay me. I don't know. I should have to pay them. It is such a treat.
Your comic timing is flawless. How long did it take during the rehearsal process or when the audience was entered into the mix? Did it all come together for you?
I was waiting for a lot of things till I got to the theater to work out a lot of things because, you work with like rehearsal props, but then you figure out the real props and what everything's looking like, and so much of my stuff is physical based. But it was much easier at adapting than I thought it would be. Also, you can make anything work if you want to, and Michael Blakemore is brilliant.
It feels amazing. It feels so exciting to, first of all, be with this company of actors, to be doing Noel Coward's play, which he wrote to remind people to laugh and to know that life is funny, and to be able to be on Broadway and be funny is really extraordinary for me. I've played a lot of different roles, and I think I finally hit one that gets to show my funny bone. And I'm with a cast of wonderful people.
You are so funny to watch. Because I've always seen you do serious shows and everything else. And like you said, your funny side is amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I get to play that serious sort of, head of Homeland Security woman on 24. But I really love to make people laugh. And it's the first time I've gotten a chance to really play that sort of part. So I'm very excited.
Someday I'll find you, moonlight behind you, true to the dream I am dreaming. As I draw near you, you'll smile, a little smile, for a little while. We shall stand hand in hand. I'll leave you never, love you forever, all our past sorrows redeeming. Make it all come true, make me love you too. Someday I'll find you again.
Playwright Neil LaBute makes his Broadway debut with his latest called Reasons to be Pretty, which opens at the Lyceum Theater on April 2nd. Terry Kinney directs.
By the time I started writing this, I guess I knew it was a trilogy. At first, it was just why am I writing these plays about body image and the way we look? And I realized that by this third idea that I'd had, that there was something to this shape, and so I realized I was using the same, structure for each of the plays, and but I hadn't dealt with the face, and so I was interested in seeing, what it was that drew us to each other, and what it was that that held a relationship together. In fact, if one member in a relationship, didn't love the way their partner looked, could that relationship survive? And on one sense, it's looking, how deep is beauty? But I think in the first play, The Shape of Things, I talked about the subjectivity of art, and I think here I got to the place speaking about how subjective, not love is, but how subjective beauty is. What one person's idea of beauty is not necessarily another's, but there is a kind of cultural sense of what we find beautiful or what we find thin, and that defines how so many of us see beauty. And it's tough for somebody to stand up and say, no, this is what I think it is. And so I think it's about a person growing up, and and one of the first characters for me, a guy who becomes a man on stage. He goes from being a boy to someone who thinks about somebody else.
Well, I like how fiercely he attacks all of his subjects. But what I love about this play is it's a play about learning to listen. So in that respect, this little tiny errant statement becomes a shattering sort of a way of portraying how the lack of listening between people creates wars. So an entire community crumbles at the hands of one small errant statement. I think that's a pretty hard thing to write, but I think it's pretty universal too.
I play Carly, who is the security guard at the factory, and sort of all goes swimmingly for her until whammo in the second act, and then there's this kind of massive humiliation, which is my favorite part of the play. I'm looking forward to it.
Greg is a man who, Greg is a person who is trying to become a man, desperately. He lives in a world that he doesn't necessarily know the rules to. He's the best way I think I can describe Greg is that Greg is a person underwater. Everything kind of blows past him a little fast. He's a little slow to react. He's a little slow to pick up on anything. Just because he's unsure, he doesn't have firm footing in the world that he's surrounded by. And one offhand comment sends his entire world into shambles, which may or may not be a good thing for Greg. And this story is about picking up the pieces, putting it back together, and learning how to be a grown-up in this world and how to better relate to people whom you care about.
Yeah, Stephanie, she's the ultimate kind of survivor, very fierce and kind of fighting to create and establish her own self-image on her own, really kind of do that.
Talk about the journey she takes, what you can tell me at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I think I would say that she sort of starts without knowing how she would define herself, how she would kind of speak about herself or how she feels about herself, and she sort of develops over the course of the play her real own independence and actually an image of herself that I don't think she could have imagined before the play starts,
I play Kent, who is the friend, the sort of classic neo-Labutian friend of our main character, who Tom Sadowski plays. And he's kind of, falls under the umbrella of, misogynistic and stereotypical kind of, blue-collar male. And it's so well written, and I'm really excited to do it.
More than 50 years ago, the groundbreaking Jerome Robbins, Leonard Bernstein, Stephen Sondheim, and Arthur Lawrence musical West Side Story took Broadway by storm. Millions of others fell in love with the film version. Well, now the Jets and the Sharks are back on Broadway at the Palace Theater in the new revival of this classic musical, directed by the show's librettist, Tony Award winner Arthur Lawrence.
It was like seeing something in a time capsule, only it was not a time capsule of the past. It was what the future would have brought to West Side Story, because 50 years ago, culturally, America was very different.
it was far more protected. Today, the violence and the gangs and the bilingual thing that Arthur brought to it, I thought was brilliant. So I applaud what they did. If you're asking me, did I feel like I was watching the original? Absolutely not. It was another production. And I miss Cheetah Rivera. I miss Larry Kurt, not because Matt wasn't wonderful. I just was so in love with them. And they have changed the production a great deal in that the whole ballet is gone. And a lot of little moments that I was so in love with, Arthur decided he didn't need. But I applaud him for making the show even more reverent and pertinent to today's problems.
I mean, just say it, and I'm going like, oof, it's great. Having the honor to keep the choreography of the original choreography recreated by Joy McNeely, who did an amazing job with all of us. It's great. I mean, it's amazing. And sing and act in Spanish also, because it makes it a little bit more real from what it is in the like right now.
It's such an honor, and it's really important because you just get to learn from exactly the man who wrote it. So it's thrilling, and it's also, he is amazing. He lets you create your own character with your instincts, and he allows you to create it with him, and it's such an honor. It's an honor.
And how wonderful it is singing the show in English and in Spanish.
I love it. I think the Spanish in the play makes it more realistic, and I like it very much. And of course, it's the idiom I speak, so.
Si mata no tiene amor, si mata no hay corazón, y ese ladrón, y ese cabrón, le da tu amor. Por favor, María, por favor.
Well, she's wonderful. She starts at 10 and she goes straight down to the bottom and never makes it back up. And I love in this version, at the very end, the tableau, you don't see her again. And she sort of, it's 0 to 60 for her. It's like once I'm out there, I've got to hit everything, every single line, every single joke. I've got to hit all of those things. So it's such a challenge. And then the show sort of slows down, and she becomes a bit of the backbone for the tragedy. And I loved playing that. I loved being, the fiery, I'm on fire, let's get it. And then sort of having to break it down and slow things down and, basically bring it to that tragic conclusion. I loved it. I love it. I can't wait to play it every night. It's exhausting, but,
It has been incredible. I was just saying, this is my dream show. I saw it when I was 13 years old, and I knew this is what I had to do. I had to do this show. This is what I was living for. So to be here and be now working with the man who created it, especially at his age, it just feels like everything is right. Like the stars have aligned, and this is right where I'm supposed to be. And working on, Arthur was incredible because he really let me go. He really he told me who he thinks action is, and then he let me go from there. And he trusted me. He saw things in me that I didn't even see in myself. So that was incredible, that he trusted me, and I thank him so much for that, because I had a blast creating this character.
Officer Krupke, we're very upset. We never had the love that every child ought to get. We ain't no delinquents, we're misunderstood. Deep down inside us there is good. There is good, there is good. There is good, there is untapped good. Like inside, the worst of us is good.
The story of Romeo and Juliet and all its big issues about injustice and intolerance, those issues are every bit as urgent today as they ever were before. So the basic story that West Side Story is telling never seems to go out of date. And when you hear the music and you see the dancing and you see that story being told again, it's just as thrilling as ever. And West Side Story really feels to us like our fourth sibling, because we grew up with it all our lives. So here it is. Here's our fourth sibling all gussied up and looking better than ever.
Well, Riff is such an incredible role. I mean, when I was a little kid, I saw the movie and I went, oh my God, this is incredible. This guy gets to sing and act and dance. And when I heard that they were doing it again on Broadway, I just had to audition for it, and I had to go in for Arthur. And to get a chance to get the role, and then to get a chance to work with Arthur and with Joey and with Patrick, and put all of the pieces together. Put the dancing and the acting and the singing together is just, it's amazing. I feel so blessed to be in this position.
With a click, with a shock, phone will jingle, door will knock. Open the latch, something's coming, don't know when, but it's soon. Catch the moon, one-handed catch. Around the corner, or whistling down the river.
It's been great working with Arthur. He's been incredibly liberating. He's really, worked with us as a cast. Who are you, Matt, and what do you bring to the role of Tony? He's been incredibly, free for us to bring our own, humanity to the role. And sometimes that means that he has, rewritten stuff for us and or rethought the way it's supposed to be. I mean, he's not, married to anything that is, supposedly the quote-unquote right way. He's really about what works for us now, today.
I'm gonna back it tonight. We're gonna jazz it tonight.